For the last couple of months, it seems Soukaku has been ridiculed by a lot of the community, from many saying she's absolutely abysmal to play, and also just not a good support compared to the others. But I genuinely could not disagree more with these statements. But what is the truth? Welcome to my channel. My name is Kate the 7th, and I'll be your host today. So today we're going to revisit Soukaku, and I promise if you stay to the end of the video, we will all be saying,
Soukaku, ready!
Soukaku is a support that shines the most in ice teams, as she can give ice damage bonus and shred resistance. Compare this with her attack buff, and you have a very competent buff over the ice element. But the thing is, most people believe that this is all she can do. But in reality, Soukaku is a support that can contribute to the team's damage output greatly. And by lining up her buffs on her EX special and chain attacks properly, you can buff multiple characters at the same time, so she ends up being extremely versatile and can pull her weight for most teams in that area. But why are so many people negative about her? Well, two terms are brought up very often for Soukaku, and that she's clunky and slow. And it's even gotten to the point where some people will say Slowkaku as a way to express their dissatisfaction with the character. But this is exaggerated much more than it actually is, as people are not factoring the buff duration. As at a baseline, Soukaku's buff lasts for 22 seconds, and with a single extra copy of her, it will now last for 30 seconds. So when you compare this to the other 3 A-rank supports, she will on average take 3 to 4 seconds longer to apply her buff, but it will also last much longer for your main DPS. As Lucy, for example, will only buff 10 to 15 seconds at a time, while Soukaku will last 15 to 20 seconds longer than that. And a well-built Soukaku will also do more than enough damage while she is on field to make up the extra seconds that she needs to apply her buff. But when talking about building her, that brings up one of the many points why I believe most people gave up on her, and that's investment. Investing in agents is very expensive, as it will cost you millions of denies and hundreds of battery charge to properly build a single one. And at the beginning of the game, it was just not worth it to invest heavily into your supports, as you could get away with giving them just the bare minimum they needed to max out their buffs. Because at the beginning, when you are a new player, making sure your DPS agents are invested the most is extremely important. But for players that have been playing since the beginning, I believe that is no longer a valid excuse, as now you should have at least 2 to 3 DPS agents fully built at this point. And now it is time and worth it to make sure your supports are properly built as well. And the supports that benefit the most from heavy investment is no other than Soukaku. And because she benefits so much from investment, I can fully understand why so many players would think she isn't that great, as a character like Rina and Nicole do benefit from heavy investment as well, but the increase to their teams is not as big as Soukaku. And recently I saw a video from a content creator by the name of Second Logic, who was able to clear the Deadly Assault with max stars on solo Soukaku recently, and he did it with her own signature W engine, and showed many people just how much damage she can really do. I'll leave a link to their video in the description below, but even on a support build, her DPS can still greatly contribute to the team. So let's go and revisit how we should be building her so everyone can take their blue Oni to the next level. Most players are still putting attack percentage slot 4, 5, and 6 for her, but this is just not the play anymore, as you can easily still hit the max attack buff needed while still going for crit rate in slot 4 and attack percentage slot 5 and 6. And because her buffs last for so long, energy recharge is not needed as well in slot 6 neither.
Second time's the charm.
And because her buffs last for so long, energy recharge is not needed neither. Ugh, God, I said neither.
3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1.
And because her buffs last for so long, energy recharge is not needed either. And at this point when it comes to substats, you need to pretty much treat her like a DPS and have as many crit and attack percent substats as possible. But for drive disc sets, you have a few options, but I believe the new Astral Voice set is best in slot on Soukaku. You just need to be a little bit more mindful when using it on her. But Swing Jazz is still a perfectly viable option as well if you already have a good set farmed. But Astral Voice is such a good set for so many characters, and the 2-piece can be used on DPS agent as well, that I would just recommend most players to still farm it. As for Vengeance, her own signature Bashful Demon is still great on her, but if you do happen to have an extra copy of Kaboom the Cannon, then this might be more preferred, as it is the most versatile support Wenjin in the game. And finally, the Battle Pass Wenjin Unfettered Game Ball is also a viable option, as it can give her and her teammate a lot of crit rate. But just remember, this will only work against ice weak enemies. But going for any of these options is perfectly fine and will do well for you. But now that you know how to fix your build, let's go over some tips and tricks to help you get the most out of her. The first tip is to start holding the attack button after a defensive assist on Soukaku. So many players do not know that Soukaku has access to an instant quick assist after she successfully parries an enemy attack, and because you can't retrigger her attack buff until the 30 seconds runs out, then there is no reason to not do this if the buff is already active. So all you need to do is defensive assist on Soukaku, and then on the follow-up attack, hold down the attack button, and she will immediately slam the ground, causing a vortex, and allowing your DPS to quick assist back on the field instantly. And this is one of the reasons why she can keep the Astral Voice buff uptime well by herself, between between her defensive assist, chain attack, EX special, and ultimate, Soukaku has 4 different ways to trigger a quick assist to allies, so this by far makes Astral Voice the best drive set on her, so don't waste time anymore on her parries and get your DPS back on the field. The second tip is to pass her attack buff in reverse, and this works especially well in dual DPS teams. Examples of these teams are Miyabi Yanagi and Miyabi Bernice, as most players only think she can give the attack buff to the agent after her in the team order, but that's what makes her chain attack so special, as if you chain on her and then chain on the character that is before her in the team order, she will pass the attack buff to that character as well, allowing Soukaku to buff the entire team just like Lucy. And due to the buff lasting for a long time, you can stagger the buff durations on both DPS and cycle through them cleanly until the fight is over. So make sure if you are running a dual DPS team that the other agent in your team is also getting the attack buff, so they can contribute even more than they did before. The next tip is to manage your vortex stacks. The 3 stacks that she can accumulate are called vortex. Mismanaging these can lead to issues in your rotations later on in the fight, so don't forget that you want at least 2 stacks before a chain attack, because your chain will give you 1 stack itself. Also, if there's only one agent in your team worth buffing, then don't force a chain attack on her, as oftentimes the buff she gives can last through the entire stun duration of the enemy, and you should only be ready to reapply or pre-stack vortex when your buff duration is almost over. But far too many times I see people force chain attacks or EX specials on Soukaku when the buff was nowhere near finished. So pay attention to your buff duration timer below your health bar, and also make sure you're managing your vortex stacks as well. And for my final tip, don't neglect her ultimate. If you get Soukaku well built, then her ultimate can provide great damage in your DPS downtime, or it can be used as an interrupt on a boss to stop them from using their devastating attacks on your team. And also, her ultimate can restore energy for your teammates, so factoring in the damage, energy restoration, ability to help keep the Astral Voice uptime, and more, her ultimate is absolutely worth using at the right moments. Also, if you're using her with Miyabi, then the cool tech you can do is when the enemy is stunned, do Miyabi's enhanced basic attack level 3, and switch to Soukaku and use her ultimate, and you will then have them both dealing damage at the same time as each other. And when Miyabi finishes her attack, you can then quick assist her back on the field immediately after. Soukaku is a character that many are starting to realize the value in and see her real strengths, and I hope I was able to help you build and use yours better today as well. But let me know in the comments what you think of her, and if you use her or plan on using her in the future. But be sure to check me out on Twitter at Keta7, join the Discord as I do weekly giveaways there. Be sure to subscribe for more ZZ content, and as always, my name is Keta7. With that, I'm signing out.